guys. We're going to do our best to try and get our special guest on. But in the meantime, Andrew's going to kind of talk about some fun stuff about title. And then hopefully I'm going to work on trying to figure out how we can get our guest in. He's, I think, having a little technical difficulty. So give us a moment. Andrew, if you'll kind of just give the breakdown of maybe the last 30 days of how it's working on the option money, and I'll be right back with everybody.
And that's kind of one of the main issues that we want people know what's going on, issues that are happening. On April 1st, Texas came out with a brand new contract, and that contract really did a lot of changes and kind of turned the real estate industry of how we do things on its head, and didn't really give the title company too much, well, one heads up and too much say in how it was going to work. And so we really wanted to have one of the title companies come on, and John Martin runs Lone Star Title, does a fantastic job with some great employees that they have there, and we were wanting to get their spin on what they thought. And so, to give a little background before all this begins, I want to let people know what happened. We used to have.
He's ready to come on whenever you give that intro, so I'll bring him on in just a second.
Here we go. So the way it used to work is we had paragraph 23 of the contract. And paragraph 23 of the contract dealt with option money. Option money used to have to be delivered to the real estate company. The agent would then deliver to the seller, and it was done that way. Well, April 1st came around and they said, okay, no longer is option money going to be delivered to the realtor and to the seller. It is now going to be delivered to the title company along with earnest money. It had a lot of people excited. Main reasons people were excited is because Texas is a large state, and you are licensed in the state of Texas. So you could literally have an agent licensed in San Antonio listing a property in El Paso. And it's really hard for me to get a $50, $100, $200 option check to San Antonio in the time frame provided. The worry was, sometimes, and I understand why, getting money out of title companies is difficult because they want to make sure they're following the rules and how it works. So it's really exciting to see. It's really exciting now that it's been a little over a month and a half. What are they seeing? What are the blowbacks? And I'll be honest, I was against this idea from the beginning. I hated it. I was against it. I was yelling at my agents, call direct, tell them it's horrible. And in this entire time, I've seen zero issues, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So I'm excited to have John come on. First off and foremost, I want to know what his thoughts were of it. Was he for it? Was he against it? And what kind of things they're seeing. And then we're just going to go over some other title issues. So John's ready. Let's pop him in here and get it going. John, how's it going?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you today?
Well, it's the joy of live. You had me worried here. I thought I was going to be juggling for 30 minutes. So.
No. I'm sorry if I'm running behind, but what else?
No, you're perfect. I don't know if you heard what I said. Mainly, April 1st came around. The new contract came into play. For me, as a broker and agent, I was terrified about it. I've been kind of relieved to see how it's been working fairly smoothly. I would just love your viewpoint on first. What did you think of the changes that went into the contract, and what have you seen, good and bad, of the changes that went into effect April 1st, if you don't mind?
Well, I guess the good part of it really was, I think it simplified things for the realtor community in that you only really had to have one depository. And so the bad or the drawback has been getting all of the agents and the brokerage community to understand that that's the case. I mean, we still get people dropping off a option fee check payable to the seller. I mean, it happens routinely. And so that puts us in a tough spot, because any title company, because we can't take it. It's not payable to us, and so it doesn't follow the terms of the contract. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of is that, we get just we get the check for the earnest money, but not the option fee. And so the contract says the check you receive goes first to the option fee and the balance of the earnest money. So that's kind of a question, because it's like, well, you haven't complied with the contract because you don't have all the earnest money up. You put the option fee up, but instead of the earnest money, you're $150 short on your earnest money deposit or something like that.
Which creates a huge issue, because according to the contract, that gives the seller's agent, especially in this hot market, the opportunity to cancel contract after three business days.
Right.
If it's so it's a huge thing. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are following the contract, because it becomes a huge concern. Because like you said, if you don't give us both checks, it first applies to the option, which is terrifying, because if I don't have my earnest money, if I don't have my option money, I don't have an option, and that's a frustration. But if I don't have my earnest money in this market, and a better offer comes along, and I have to now tell my buyer, hey, funny story, this was our 9th deal, and we finally got accepted, but now it's dead. It's scary. So it does require a lot of conversation.
It does, and it takes a huge amount of awareness amongst the brokerage community and from the brokers and the sponsoring brokers as well, to make sure their agents are educated on that. Because look, I can go up to our front desk right now in our main office, and I guarantee you there will be at least 2 envelopes there with checks payable to sellers waiting on an agent to come by and pick them up and have them made out to the title company.
Well, and here's the other thing.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah, agents don't come back and get that money. That's the downside, is if they weren't diligent enough to pay attention to the contract in the first place, very rarely, I'm sure that, John, you have probably a stack full of things that agents are supposed to come back and pick up. And this is the downside, is that this is why finding the right real estate agent that's going to take care of you as a client, and the agent that we're talking to right now on this training, listen to this. Do not be that agent that is, 1, making everybody wait, and 2, is going to put your client in a bind as a fiduciary.
Because the clock's going. As soon as we've executed that contract, it's going. So if you write the check to the title and give it to the title company who's renting the wrong person, you can lose out on this deal very easily because you have not delivered full earnest, because option money will be credited first. And I think that's something a lot of people aren't getting and realizing, that especially in this market, how big of a deal that is.
It's huge, huge.
My other main question to you, because I used to work for a title company, I know the risks and the fights of the he said, she said, we want our earnest money back. What are you seeing with option money? Are you guys, is it easier to release than earnest money? I know there's a waiver in there where it says after a certain amount of time we have the right to, we can release it at any time. So that's done. You still need to make sure it vests, and I think we all understand that. But what is the process and the difficulties that you've seen releasing the earnest option money to the sellers?
We have not been, as a general rule, our practice has been not to release the option money to the sellers unless they specifically ask for it, and then if it's a significant sum. What is that? Over $250, maybe over $500, depending on the size of the transaction. But most sellers are not asking for the earnest money. Most of their listing agents are not asking for the option money to be released to the seller when it comes in. It's just credited at closing.
What about when the deal's bomb? What is the steps? I'm working a deal with an agent. We've got we're not setting standards, of course. I've got $150 option money at the title company. The deal's dead. What proof do I, as a selling agent, need to give you to release it to the seller?
None. Just request it, and we'll cut it to the seller right then. Okay,
so we don't have to do the same thing. We don't have to have both sides sign. So that's fantastic. That was my big fear, and I understand your reasoning, and that's where I think a lot of the nice thing about having worked for a title company is you get to see other sides. So if you have an opportunity to have worked multiple facets of real estate, it really makes you a lot more willing to see other sides of the story.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So that's section 5A number 4 in the new contract, and the buyer specifically authorizes the escrow agent to release and deliver the option fee to the seller at any time without any further notice or consent from the buyer, and they release the escrow agent from liability for delivery of the option fee to the seller. So that's the language we are just hanging our hat on, saying,
But you're still going to hold it to make sure that it clears the bank first, that it's not a hot check. True?
We're still going to hold it. So you're talking about the option. So under the title insurance regulations, we can take up to $1,500 in an uncertified funds check. Okay. And so our policy is that if we receive either in one check or as a separate check the option money, we're going to consider it good funds.
Okay, cool.
To get go. As long as it's less than $1,500, the option fee.
Awesome, because that's those are my fears going for it, and the reason is funny. As soon as the new contract was started to be discussed, that's when we saw so many. I would tell them option issues that were coming around the world. I mean, it never fails when I've started. It's like, this is a horrible idea. And then we have agents in San Antonio and all these things and all these issues. And I was like, oh, well, this is going to be solved in a month when the new contract comes into play. And I will say I've been very impressed with how the title companies have done a seamless job. Agents, not so much. As you said, agents are still doing that. I mean, we still every once in a while have an agent come to our office, like, I'm dropping off the option money. He's like, whoa.
Yeah, right. Well, they'll get it in time. It's just a matter of, the learning curve. And
absolutely.
It'll come around for sure.
What are you guys seeing right now is your biggest headaches that if you had the platform like right now, what could be a quick, easy fix that realtors are doing that would be an easy fix to say, hey guys, be careful about this, change this to be able to move forward.
So here's one that I see a lot, and I don't see every one of these, but they come up to across my desk quite frequently. Solar panels. Nobody thinks about the house when you go out to take the listing. Just look on the roof. I mean, are there solar panels? If it's a flat roof and you can't see, then start asking the seller, hey, did you ever do solar panels? Call the title company. Let's do a little preliminary search. I just want to check. I want to see if there's a financing statement or some kind of security agreement that securing this lender on the solar panels. We had one.
John, can I just kind of interject there?
Sure.
Can you tell? So the UCC search that title companies find those solar panels under. Can you kind of just explain? Because the UCC is traditionally only a commercial side of the equation, but solar panels bring it into a residential side of the equation. Can you kind of give us a baseline of what that means? What is a UCC really going to do to the transaction in grand scheme? So
the UCC financing statement is a debt instrument that's filed by the creditor. It doesn't have to be signed off on by the borrower, but the borrower typically is signing some kind of a contractual agreement, in this case, to purchase the solar panels or to lease the solar panels or to provide the supplemental electricity from the solar panels to, i.e. Tesla or Sun City Solar. And so either a credit union or a finance company, whoever is got the finance arm of those solar panels, typically would file a UCC statement, and they file it in the real property records, right where they would file a deed of trust or a deed. And they file it with a legal description or the account number from the appraisal district or the address. I mean, somehow it's indexed, and so it comes up in the title search. So here you have, this title search that pops up, and it says, 2 years ago or 2 months ago, you just bought these new solar panels. And so it's a fixture filing. So the security or the collateral for that debt instrument is the solar panels or the contractual obligation to buy the energy from the company that provided the solar panels at X cents a kilowatt hour, but you've got a 15-year commitment to buy the energy, and they're expecting that income stream, and so they secure that income stream with the UCC financing statement.
Gotcha. So it's not always going to be the easiest thing to find in a general search by EP County. It might be something that's going to pop up a little bit more hidden. And the other thing is, a lot of these financing companies don't allow for taking over that note. Yeah, assuming that note. Or so it almost requires sometimes a payoff, which can be a real headache that we don't usually find out until the 11th hour.
Exactly. And so I've seen this come on a lot of different ways. A lot of times I've seen it where the solar panels are there and the seller thinks, I own these or I lease these. I don't realize there's an obligation and a commitment for me to continue buying electricity or to continue paying for these solar panels. And it comes up on the title commitment, and you're seeing it, and you're the buyer's agent. You don't know what you're looking at, so you don't say anything about it. And then you get to closing, and the title company saying, hey, what's going on with the solar panels? Are you going to assume those solar panels and the debt that goes with it or the obligation? Some buyers will say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to buy my electricity from El Paso Electric Company. I don't want solar panels. Okay, well, when you read that 20-page contract, when the seller pulls it out, what they signed, the panel company can come out and remove the solar panels, but there's a cost for that. There's a time for that involved, and it's not free. or they can transfer them to the new home. If the buyer's buying a new house, they can, assuming that it fits and that it works, for a fee, they'll transfer them to the new home.
Now, with the contract change that went into effect April 1st, this is supposed to be talked about in front page, paragraph 4. Have you seen it done more, or are people still not paying attention to these things?
They're not paying attention to it. I was going to tell you, last week we had this, get this one. The seller had just put in a walk-in tub. Okay, so the new walk-in tub had a
14
UCC, 14 grand, UCC fixture filing on it, and so it gets to closing, and it's like, you owe this money. Well, she owes money to close the deal already. She's underwater, and now she's got a $14,000 payoff on a walk-in bathtub. So she gets the finance company and the bathtub company to agree to move it to the new home that she's moving into. I don't know if it was a rental or what, but anyway, she had to pay down a lot of money to get them to do that, and they had to come and do it. I'm not even sure how that one ended up. But again, it's just one of those things that if you're a listing agent and you're walking through the house or you're going on the listing appointment, man, you're Sherlock Holmes. I want to know, is this your husband? No, it's not my husband. Okay, well, were you married when you bought the house? No, I'm not. I'm divorced. Okay. You're not trying to pry into people's personal lives, but these are things that are going to come up that you need to know about.
Well, and we have those problems a lot.
I noticed you have solar panels on your roof. Tell me about them. How long have you had them? Did you buy them? Did you lease them?
Yeah.
Very seldom have I seen where somebody outright owns their solar panels and they're supplying electricity directly to their house. There's always some other catch or hook.
I haven't, so I'm going to have to have you check mine, because as far as I know, I own mine free and clear. So
good for you. Yeah, very seldom do you see that, but congratulations.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the detective thing, because I live by a simple mantra: it takes one to buy, two to sell. And so often I have to tell people, it's like, well, I own this home, my husband doesn't. That's cute, but he's signing the contract anyway. I don't care if he needs to or not, he's going to sign, and I have a feeling the title company's going to make him sign also. So I think that's something we need to remind people. And what you said about being investigators is so key. Is like, listen, I get you bought this home yourself, but you're married, and as a wedding present, you gave him a house. So how correct am I in that statement of it's just so much better, just even if it's not, and that's something like, guys, it's not my job to say if you need to sign or not, but you need to sign. Right.
Yeah, no, it is. And if you get pushback on that, then, without creating a lot of tension, okay, well, let's get the title company involved early on in this process, and let's go find out what their requirements would be. Let's see how you took title to it. If your husband was on the, obviously it's a community property state. So if both spouses are living in the house, even though she may say, well, I bought this house before I got married. This isn't my husband's house. This is all mine. Okay. But if you're in the house and you see in the master bedroom that the husband's closet is full of men's shoes and men's suits, he's living there. That's in essence his homestead. So he has an equitable interest in that, and he's going to need to sign.
Absolutely.
I see, here's another thing that we see a lot of times, and this comes up pretty frequently, but on the buyer's end, you have a non-qualifying spouse. So, the lender is relying on one party for credit and for the loan underwriting. But many lenders want to have the spouse signing the deed of trust and certain loan documents. Mm-hmm. Well, we have underwriters, due to case law and title law, insurance law, and different underwriters' perspectives, we can close and insure without having the non-qualifying spouse sign. And so we can go both ways, but then that makes lenders think funny, because they think, oh man, I got to have the spouse's signature in Texas. It's community property state. Not necessarily. If it's a non-qualifying spouse, they don't have to necessarily sign the deed of trust. And yet sometimes, and you've seen this on the buyer side, from the emotional standpoint, hey, I want to be on the deed, even though I'm not a qualifying borrower. I want my name on the deed. So that's, again, that Sherlock Holmes hat on from the buyer's agent's perspective. What is it that the buyer couple wants, the married couple? Do they both want to be on title, even though only one of them is qualifying for the loan?
I have had to play the role of the unqualified spouse, so I know the game well. College, I had a lot of fun and a lot of credit cards. Yeah. One other question I've got for you, because this is kind of we've had some groundbreaking things happen in real estate over the last year. What are your thoughts, and what are the good and bad you're seeing of being able to do the almost the online notary thing that Texas now allows? I mean, it seems like it's a great thing, but do you see it continuing on after the COVID crisis is over? Do you see it going back?
Yeah, I do see it. I see it gaining traction and momentum in time. It really has not been a big factor in our volumes in terms of remote online notaries because the lending community is not pushing it. And even though it's touted and it is available and it's out there, it just hasn't been it hasn't been pressed in our marketplace too much. We just haven't seen much of it.
You know, it was nice as we had I actually closed the deal last week where they were in Colorado, the sellers were in Colorado, and they lived in a very small community, and so it was a great thing. They were able to get it done. They didn't have to find a notary and go through all those steps. So I can definitely see the advantage. You're not hearing a lot of heartburn from lenders about it working that way?
No, no. I mean, if the lender is compliant and willing to allow for the remote online notary or the REN closing, then it works very smoothly. And it takes a little more time and it takes a little more thought because it's kind of new to our industry. And so you've got lenders that kind of say, oh, I'm not sure we can do that, or no, we don't do that. And you got title companies that say, well, I've done that, and yes, we can do it. But I think the other thing that everyone in the brokerage community needs to keep in mind right now, and I'm speaking on behalf of all mortgage companies and all title companies, there is it's just like a garden hose. There is a certain amount of water that can flow through that hose, and you can put a pump on it and you can punch it and press it as hard as you want. But there's only so many cubic feet a second of water that can flow through that 5/8 inch garden hose. And our industry right now is, I've never seen it this maxed out. And so anytime you can buy a little extra time, give the title company heads up, hey, this deal's closing next week. And I realize you're working on this week's problems, but I just want you to be aware of it so that on Monday when you come in, you can start working on this and realize that, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of lenders and home builders. I mean, I talked to a lender today and he said, a particular home builder here has left a dozen closings on the table for June because they can't get them finished. They can't get them, they can't get the deals completed and they're just not closing. And so one other thing that we look at a lot, and we looked at this back in April, the end of the month in May, Friday, this week, the 28th of May is the last day of the month. It's a 3-day weekend. It's very difficult, as much as we like to tout that we'll open on Saturday and we're going to do this. Our people have been going as essential business for the last 16 months. And for me to tell our staff, I need you to work all day on Saturday on a 3-day weekend, that is not building any good rapport with anybody. And it just not going to happen. So when you see that end of the month falling on a Friday, and it's, we got one coming up on the 4th of July, the end of the month is going to be, right before the 4th of July weekend. The 5th of July is a holiday. But, by noontime on Friday, people are bugging out for a 4-day weekend and it's over.
No, absolutely. And I think what you said is absolutely, I think we need to remember that, and nobody wants to hear this, but we are not the title company's only client. We are not the lender's only client. Though we are amazing in our own minds, we are one part of a whole cog of a machinery that is real estate, and not expect the world to stop and swoon when you walk in a room or when you call, and understand that, hey, they have a right to go to lunch just like you do. They have a right to take other people's phone calls, and they have the right to have the audacity to have another closing while you're trying to make a phone call. I think we as realtors have a real God complex almost of expecting people to. I mean, I called and you weren't available. That's unacceptable, and we need to remember they've got other work, they've got other clients.
Yeah,
we're going to take care of it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I am not trying to make excuses for our industry or for the mortgage industry or the home building industry. I'm just telling you, there's a tremendous amount of pressure, and you can say, well, lumber prices are this, and sheetrock's costing me this. All of that just builds up this pressure on the home builder, and he's sitting there saying, well, how can I sell this house for X dollars 6 months from now if I don't even know what my costs are going to be? You see that creates, how can I get my 27 deals that I projected to close this month in my home building operation done? Here it is, the 26th of May, and I've only got 14 of them done. That means I got to do 16 more in the next 3 days. Okay, we're going to do what we can, but as my dear friend Thelma Padilla says, that runs our circle, I can't pull a rabbit out of my butt every time, boss. It just don't work that way.
No, absolutely. And it is, and I'm not going to lie, it's easy for me to say that what I said a second ago, but I do expect people to swoon when I walk into a room. I can already see Brian laughing, like, look at this guy preaching this garbage when if you don't recognize my voice, I get offended. And I am the first to admit I am a pompous a-hole. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm a pompous a-hole who thinks he's amazing. But sometimes we've got to be reminded, guys, you're not the only person in the room. You're not the only one that's out there. And it's important. Brian, I'm going to let you speak because it looks like you've got it.
Well, and just to kind of relate to that factor, listen, Scott Kesner once told us that we have a fiduciary to the contract, okay? And if we have a fiduciary to the contract, we also have a fiduciary to the industry. We have to be respectable of the entire industry. We have to be respectable of the lenders, the other agents, the people that are involved in our industry every single day. Because the moment that we stop realizing that it takes multiple parties to close a transaction, listen, John has no business without real estate agents trying to push that business over to him. And vice versa, lenders have no business unless they have conversations with agents that are going to help them get business. This is a collaborative effort, and the moment that we stop believing that it's a collaborative effort, and this is the problem with today's agents, we all feel that we're amazing, except for we realize that we can't be amazing without other people. That's it. We have to be conducive to a collaborative environment. That's the simple.
Very well said. Very well said. And I was reading an article this morning that was shared with me, and it was ask yourself these 3 questions before you open your mouth. Does what I'm about to say need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now? And if you just think about that, do I need to say this? Does it need to be said by me in this conversation? And do I really need to say it right now? That's so important, and I tell people, I had a guy today ask me, hey, I need some help on a property in Scottsdale that I'm working on, and it's like, I might be able to help you, but I'm going to be a lot more open to helping you on that next Tuesday than I am today. Can you hang in there for a while until next week? And again, he wasn't a frequent client. And so it worked out well. He said, yeah. And I would also reiterate on that or emphasize on that, Andrew, we all like to be stroked. We all can be pompous A's at one time or another. It's human nature. But humility and relationships are where you're able to say, hey, you know what? I got myself in a bind on this deal, Mr. Title Company guy. Can you help me figure this out? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I got to figure something out. And then say thank you. Don't ever be afraid to say, hey, thanks for going out of the way to help us get this deal resolved. And it means a lot to people.
I think definitely in the current market we're in, we are seeing the true value of the relationships that we have.
Absolutely.
And not just between other companies. I mean, I can't tell you how many deals have been decided by, listen, I know this real estate agent. I know they're good at what they do, and I know they're ethical. Yep. I'm not saying it's the best deal out there. I'm saying of these 3 agents, I know this agent is going to get the job done.
Yep.
Nothing against the other agents, but if you have those connections, it's huge. And I think we're seeing so much more now, the value that has been created from those connections of being able to call and say, hey, this is an issue that I have. And being able to call my title agent and they know who I am. I don't have to explain, hey, my name's Andrew. I work for Century 21. But being able to have that relationship is a true value. And I really, Nick and I were talking about this just the other day, almost probably close to 1,000 agents in the market in El Paso now don't know a world pre-COVID. And that's kind of a scary thought. I just looked at the numbers, just this year into 2021, 250 agents have joined this year, the association, which means all of last year plus those 250 don't really know how those I'm going to guess have not had as much luck forming those relationships and doing it. And I feel very sorry for them and not understanding it and seeing it, because it's right now there's such a value in those relationships and being able to make those phone calls and knowing who to call and when to call and how to call. That's where the right brokers come in so handy, and just finding the right business relationships. I mean, how many escrow officers do you have under you, John?
26.
You got 26 for a reason. One, you guys do a lot of business, but more importantly, each one of those, and I'm speaking for you. So each one of those has a different personality and type that attracts a different kind of agent. And you need to understand, just because this one doesn't work for you doesn't mean that one won't. And you need to find the right agent and the right loan officer and the right everything to make sure what Brian was saying, you have that collaborative team to be a true team and get this deal done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, that's a great point you bring up about the people, the agent community that doesn't know the world pre-COVID. There's even more and a higher percentage that don't know the economy or the marketplace in a downtime or an economic downturn.
Valuable point.
For you know, your company has been around, Haggerty Company has been around for decades. And so you've been through the ups and downs. You've seen it. I've seen it. Brian has seen it. And those are things to remember, because this market of multiple offers within the first 2 hours of listing will not last forever. It will at some point flatten out and change. And those relationships then at that point will be even of more importance, I think.
It's scary, because I actually had an agent who, I mean, he's a $1 million producer. He's a great agent. He's been with us about 1.5 years. And he actually came to me the day. He's like, I don't know what to do. I said, I'm doing something wrong. It's been a week and I don't have multiple offers. I'm like, dude, this isn't real. I was like, this is a great dream world we're in, but it's not going to stay like this forever.
Right.
And this is the first month. Yes, just so I mean, I'm the guy that pays attention to those stats. This is the first month that we will see more inventory hit the market than contracts. And it's the first time in 18 months that has been the circumstance. So with more inventory hitting the market than contracts hitting the market, or houses going under contract, the other thing that has happened is we have had more contracts fall through and not go immediately back under contract this month than any other month in the last 18. Guys, it is changing dramatically, and people have to be responsible.
Yeah. So what you're saying there is, even though inventory is starting to go up and supply is starting to rise a little, the demand is also kind of hit a
dwindling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I think people are just getting I mean, it's not there yet. I mean, we're still seeing multiple offers. So if you're watching this, don't think, oh, the world is ending. But you need to watch those statistics and understand what we're looking at and we're seeing in the future. It can't stay a seller's market forever. It's just
no, it won't. You're right.
And sellers have gotten, I mean, pretty. You said it. You know, it's like, well, I want to stay in here for a year after I leave without paying you rent, and you have to pay my moving expenses and buy me a Porsche. What? I mean,
don't worry, Andrew. I'll put a cherry on top, and I'll get the deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen, and I think I was actually talking with Conrad Pickett today, who is past president of the board of realtors, just a fantastic young agent. I can say young agent because he's the piece of garbage, I must say it, piece of garbage, who stole title of youngest president from me, so I'm allowed to say that. But you know, he said a comment from his grandfather, and if you don't know, Max Weber, been an agent for years and years and years, just a great agent, did a lot of property management. And his words were, you always have to evolve. If you're not always evolving in real estate, you're not going to stay in real estate. And it's fantastic advice from someone who's a third generation realtor who understands what's going on, how it works. And it's so true, especially in today's market. We are always having to change our strategies, change our plans, change what we use, how we use it. And if you're not doing that, if you're not evolving, you're not going to last.
Right. Yep. You're slowly withering and dying on the vine.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna jump in there. We're sitting at about 34 minutes. We still had good attendance, so guys, thank you everybody for joining. John, I'm sure there's lots of other stories we can go over, because we actually had the discussion about 3 weeks ago during our breakfast about blockchain. You had actually mentioned this, and now I've finally got some of the insight to that. So I'd love to come back at a further point and have that discussion about, is this something the title industry is really scared about or not? So just we'll kind of put a pin in that and hold it for later. But John, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed this new technological advancement.
I appreciate the opportunity, and always appreciate the dialogue, and always appreciate your support and friendship. It means a lot.
John, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.